Hello, thank you so much for joining me today for my book review and discussion of Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. The setup's a little different today. I'm not filming during the day because I just keep getting interrupted. So I just thought, I guess I'm just gonna film at night, and I don't have the daylight from the window to give me good natural lighting. Sorry if the video quality isn't as good. Thank you so much to Kat from Paperback Dreams for promoting this book as much as she does on this channel, Kat. I really love your content and the way that you analyze books, and I'm very, very glad that you recommended Radio Silence to all of your viewers because I thought it was excellent. I'm pretty sure it's your dream for more people to be talking about this book because it really is quite underrated. I don't think I would have heard about it if I hadn't found Kat's channel. So I'm gonna talk about it and tell you why I think you should read it. Radio Silence is a contemporary novel that takes place in the UK, and it's about this girl named Frances who is very studious. She's basically the model student. She gets excellent grades. School is basically her whole life. She finds out at the beginning of the story that one of her acquaintances is the creator of this YouTube podcast that she's a really big fan of. The podcast is called University, and it's kind of reminiscent of Welcome to Night Vale. I've personally never listened to Welcome to Night Vale, so that doesn't really mean anything to me, but if that is something that you know, University is this sci-fi story that's told in 20-minute installments and is narrated by this character who calls himself Radio Silence. So the creator's name is Aled, and Frances and Aled become friends. The story follows the trials and tribulations that they go through. It also follows a lot of Frances's internal struggles because she's at that point in her academic career when she's trying to figure out what her next step is after high school. She's applying to university and trying to figure out what she's going to do with her future. She's dealing with ghosts from her past and is trying to find out what makes her happy, what her goals and aspirations are, and who her real friends are. There's just a lot of stress and uncertainty in her life. Aled is also kind of at the same point in his life. He's 1 year older than Frances, and he's going to go off to university very soon. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars because I found the characters to have so much emotional depth, and I really connected with Frances, the protagonist. I thought that her story and her character were written really well, and I enjoyed a lot of the themes in this book, like how growing older doesn't necessarily mean growing up. I think that if anyone is at a point in their life or has been at a point in their life when they're kind of on the precipice of adulthood and they're just not really sure what they want to do, where they want to go, how they're going to get there, then I think the characters in this book would really speak to anybody who has been at that point in their life or is at that point in their life. Alice Oseman is an excellent writer. I found out that she's super young. I think she's 24. She published her first book when she was 17 or something crazy like that. I really like the way that she wrote about Frances's emotions in this book. I feel like there was a lot of sadness and stress and uncertainty in Frances's life that sort of existed as this kind of undercurrent just running in the background, and you don't even always realize that it's there until she says something that just seems so sad and profound at the same time. I was also really not prepared for how relatable I ended up finding this book to be. If you look here, I started keeping tabs of all the times that Frances said something relatable, or I found something in the book to be particularly funny or profound, because there were just a lot of things in this book that I felt like reflected my life. I think that was part of the reason that I emotionally connected so much with this book. Frances reminded me a lot of myself. She's super studious, and even though she does well on all her exams, she never fails to be nervous whenever she sits down for one. She works all the time because she literally feels like she's wasting her time if she's not working, and she has loved ones tell her that she should take a break and she deserves a break. Those really felt like echoes of my own life. And even the way that her friends treated her reminded me of the way that I fit into my friend group at high school. I mean, the level of isolation that Frances felt among her school friends, it was definitely more pronounced than what I've experienced in my life, but the way that she talked about how her friends pretty much just saw her school persona and treated her like she was just this innocent girl who hadn't had any major life experiences, and you know, if she was gonna go drinking or something, then they'd be spoiling her good character or something like that. And the way that she only talked to a lot of her school friends in group chats but never one-on-one, and how she felt like she couldn't really turn to any of her friends from school for when she needed to talk about something emotional or needed a shoulder to cry on. I really felt that because I feel like I have felt that kind of loneliness before, and it's sad, but you know, it really made me connect with Frances. Also, there are some LGBTQ characters. Frances is bisexual. You know how I love me some good LGBTQ representation in the books or media that I consume. I also really appreciate how this book is about a healthy and honestly quite heartwarming relationship that is platonic between a boy and a girl. I just think their friendship is really, really sweet. Of course, they don't go without bumps in the road or anything like that, but I really enjoyed reading about their relationship together. So I definitely recommend this book. I rated 5 out of 5 stars. I mean, it's definitely character driven, but I think that the connection that you make with these characters is just so great. You just get totally engrossed in Frances's world and you really want her to just be happy. I feel like Alice Oseman just wrote this as a warm hug to anybody who's ever been uncertain about their future, especially if you're at that age where you're becoming an adult. And I also think that if you've ever been a part of fandom or had experience with fandom culture, there's a lot about the story that is relatable because Frances draws fan art and Aled does this podcast which has its own following, so that's a lot of fun. I felt like I was reading about like a realistic teenager's day-to-day life, and maybe it's because the author is so young, so of course she knows how teenagers behave and the kind of technology that they use and the kind of hobbies that they have. Yeah, I definitely recommend this book. Please read it. Tell me what you think. I hope I said something that made sense in this video. And I'm gonna go into a spoilery section now, so if you haven't read the book, please leave, and if you read it, please come back and we can discuss. Okay, if you haven't read it, bye. Okay, hello again. So first thing I want to say, basically right off the bat, when Daniel and Aled were introduced, one of my first thoughts was that they were secretly dating. I remember Frances wondering to herself like why a quiet guy like Aled would hang out with a guy like Daniel. I just thought maybe they're secretly boyfriends. I'm really happy that they worked things out in the end. I appreciate the asexual representation with Aled's character. I thought it was really sad, of course, that there's a lot of miscommunication with his relationship with Daniel. Aled's inability to communicate really frustrated me. I just really wanted to see him at the end of the book really learn how to communicate with the people that he loves and not bottle it all up, because I know I do that sometimes without even realizing it sometimes. I just wanted to see how his relationships with other people were affected once he learned how to communicate better. And I guess while we're on the topic of things that I wanted to see, I was also interested in the storyline with Rain, because Rain was always that person who Frances felt the closest to among her school friends, and I thought it was nice that her friendship with Frances grew a little bit stronger throughout the development of the book, but I wanted to see that go a little bit farther and see Frances kind of maybe break down those walls with one other person who's not Aled. And I know maybe that wasn't the point of the book, maybe there wasn't enough time, maybe it can just be left up to the reader where that relationship goes after the book ends. I just got really frustrated with a lot of the things that Rain was saying about Aled, about how like he didn't have any reason to complain about his secret being let out. Like he should just be happy that he's famous now that people know that he's the creator for this podcast. And I know her heart was in the right place. She was just trying to support Frances and be a good friend, but you never really see Rain learn why the things that she said was problematic. So I guess that was just a character arc that I didn't feel satisfied with. But I know she's just a side character, so I don't know if anyone else thought that. I also want to talk about some of the scenes that I thought were really emotional. I really liked the slow reveal of Frances's past with Karis. Also, like, I feel weird saying these names because I feel like I'm not saying them right, because I've never met someone named Aled or Karis. There was this one flashback scene where Frances was thinking back to the night after everybody got their exam grades back in and Karis failed every single one of her exams, and she was just so emotional. She just felt like nobody listened to her, and that's such a sad theme that is prevalent in this book. The reason that Aled starts the podcast is because it's basically like a cry for help. That made me really emotional to see these characters who just want to be listened to. There was this scene when Rain convinced Frances to go to the club, and Frances really didn't want to go because she had already had her falling out with Aled and she honestly just didn't want to see anybody. This scene like really sticks out to me in my head because, I don't know, the way Oseman wrote this scene made it so easy to visualize. I can just see Frances sitting at the bar watching all these people around her, and she talks to a random stranger. I think it was a girl with purple hair, and she's just sitting there and she's watching all these people as if she herself isn't there. And it was so vivid and it was so sad. I just felt really bad for Frances because she was drinking her problems away. And there was one scene that made me cry. It was when Frances was trying to apologize to Aled. She found him at this party that she went to, and she just wanted to say sorry for the oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional thinking about it right now. Frances wanted to apologize for all of the things that she did and how she failed to keep a secret. Aled was like her first real friend. They were best friends. They were basically like the same person because they had such similar taste in clothes and in music and everything, and they collaborated on this podcast that meant so much to both of them. And she just wanted her friend back, and she just wanted to say sorry because she regretted everything that had happened to Aled, and Aled didn't believe her because he thought that she was just pretending to be his friend the whole time so that she could get like university spoilers or whatever, so that she could get notoriety from being a part of this show that means a lot to a lot of people. Just to not have him believe her and for her to already be drunk, like, it was made me so frustrated that they were having this conversation when they were both inebriated, because that's a terrible time to try to work out your emotional problems. Then Frances started thinking about how she felt like it was her fault that Karis ran away, and it's like all of these things are crashing down on her on top of the fact that she's drunk, and I just started crying because it was too much, man. It was too much. A really big theme in this book was university and trying to figure out what to do after high school, and I thought that it was interesting that Frances claimed that she didn't have any hobbies at the beginning of the book. She felt like normal people have hobbies, but she doesn't, so she just does work all the time. She does fan art, and like, that's a hobby. That is something that means a lot to her. It's something that she's good at, according to, you know, her peers, her art teacher. Art was just something that was so not on her radar that she didn't even consider it as a hobby. She legitimately does. Her art teacher asked her if she considered pursuing art as a career, and she was like, no, I've never considered that. I was just gonna do English. That was my plan. I'm gonna go to Cambridge, I'm gonna study English, and I'm gonna have a practical job, and that's what my life is gonna look like. It kind of reminded me of when I was in senior year. I took AP art when I was in the 12th grade, and I had never considered pursuing art as a career as much as I had when I was 17 years old. And it's weird because, like, I didn't put in enough time and effort into art as a lot of my peers, I felt like, to the point where I felt confident enough to be able to pursue that as a career path. But it was like an idea in my head that I allowed myself to consider, I suppose. I guess that was another thing about Frances that reminded me of myself. There's this really good passage that I wanted to read. Okay, page 268. Okay, I was going to Cambridge, and I was going to get a good job and earn lots of money, and I was going to be happy. Wasn't I? I was. Uni, job, money, happiness. That's what you do. That's the formula. Everyone knows that. I knew that. You can just see her wrestling with herself. It really just sounds like she's trying to convince herself this is the only way that it can be. You can just feel her put all this pressure on herself. If it's any other way, this entire world that she's built around herself might just fall apart, which I guess it kind of did. I just feel like it's things like that Alice Oseman puts in her writing that makes all these characters have such emotional depth. You can really feel everything that these characters are feeling. And wow, the Cambridge interview Frances had was so cringy. Reading the transcript, oh my gosh, it was disappointing. There's this part where Rain goes to Frances and Daniel. She's like, if you guys can't get in, then who can? And she meant it as an encouraging statement, but I can definitely see why that wouldn't be encouraging, because I feel like I've been in that position where the people that you well know that you work really hard, and they can see how much effort you put into your work, but at the same time you look inside yourself and you feel like it is so plausible for you to just fail and disappoint everybody, despite the fact that you do have a good track record. Once again, really related to Frances in that situation. Ooh, I'm gonna read another passage. Frances has been rejected from Cambridge, and she's just reflecting on this fact. Would you let me have a really selfish moment? I'd done literally everything. I'd read an outrageous amount of books. I'd been preparing for this for an entire year. I was the cleverest girl in the class. I had been since I knew what it meant to be clever, and Cambridge was where clever people went. And I still hadn't got in. Everything had been for nothing. I'm sure you think I was complaining about nothing. You probably think I'm a whiny teenager. And yeah, it was all in my head, probably. That doesn't mean it wasn't real. So fuck you all. Profanity. Dude, I finished this book like over a week ago, and I'm just going back and reading all the passages that I wrote down, or thinking about scenes that really made an impact on me, and I'm just like getting emotional all over again. So that passage really stood out to me. I just wanted to tell her that she wasn't being selfish, and it was okay to feel the way that she did about not getting into the university that she was planning to get into since she was really young. And sometimes things don't go according to plan, even if you have so much merit. Not all hope is lost just because you get some rejections, right? Right. So I guess that's all I have to say about Radio Silence. I am doing the Asian Read-a-thon, so I will be posting a wrap-up video of everything that I read. I'm very, very excited for that. Well, thank you so much for watching. My name is Jazz. Take care of yourself. Bye.